Atlantis and the Aztlan island of the Aztecs of South America. The lost Atlantis is one of the most controversial myths from ancient times. This myth has stimulated the imagination and interest of many researchers who are trying with historical data to prove or disprove the existence of this lost continent. Some of them even formulate the opinion that the destruction of the ancient Crete Minoan civilization and the eruption of the volcano of ancient Santorini, Thera, are related to the existence of this continent in some historical period. The myth of Atlantis was made known to Plato, who in his books Timaeus and Critias, written 350 BC, describes in the form of a dialogue many elements about the culture, the way of life, the technical achievements, and the organization of the state of Atlanteans. According to Plato, the Atlanteans were a people of supernatural abilities and divine origin who lived peacefully on an island beyond the gates of Hercules. In ancient times, these gates were the Straits of Gibraltar. Therefore, according to Plato, Atlantis was probably located somewhere between Europe and America in the geographical area of the Atlantic Ocean. The land area that this island occupied could be called a continent. Plato, 427 to 347 BC, presents Atlantis as elongated from east and west. Anyone could, he writes, cross it by walking 18 days and nights, passing then by ship through some other islands to reach the opposite continent. He means here America, of course. Plato did not know about Atlantis. What he describes in his books were notes given to him by Critias, who had them from his grandfather, who took them from Solon. Solon, 639 to 559 BC, had indeed visited Egypt, where the priest of Saida revealed to him the ancient secrets that were written on tablets with hieroglyphic archaeograms. The priests of Saida, the ancient religious capital of Egypt, I wonder if that's Port Said, anyway, told Solon that the Atlanteans came from the west, from the great ocean. The powerful nation of the Atlanteans, the tablets read by the priest wrote, conquered almost all the coasts of the Mediterranean countries from the north and south and reached as far as the Persian Gulf. The Atlanteans failed to conquer Attica, that's today's Athens area, because their troops were defeated by the Athenians. All this is also witnessed by the ancient historian Plutarch in the life of Solon in his work Parallel Lives and his study about Isis and Osiris. Plutarch gives us a lot of information about Atlantis and even uses the word history when he refers to it. Although in many parts of his works he refers to various beliefs of the ancients which, as tradition and writing says, start from the lost Atlantis. Proclus affirms that he saw these plates when he traveled to Egypt and visited the temple of Neith, Athena. Proclus, in his book Notes on the Platonic Works, says, "It was a large island in the Atlantic Ocean in ancient times. It was an extremely civilized and powerful nation. It conquered a large part of Attica up to Egypt and Europe up to Tyrrhenia." Proclus claims that the priests of Neith showed him a very ancient column with hieroglyphic inscriptions and told him that they were accounts of Atlantis. They confirmed to him that during the last theocracy, when Atlantis was sunk, Attica, that is the Athenians, and other regions of Greece were shaken by earthquakes. Some beaches were flooded by the sea and became disasters. It was larger than Libya and Asia together, confirms Crandoras' comments on Odysseus. The Atlanteans controlled many islands around their continent in the Atlantic Ocean, writes Diodorus Sikeliotis in his work Historical Library, and they also extended to the Mediterranean countries. These are confirmed, he adds, in addition to Plato, also Homer, Hesiod, Herodotus, Aeschylus, Philo, Aristarchus, Crates, and Apollodorus. Posidonius, Cicero's teacher, writes, "There were legends that beyond the Heraclean columns, that is, the Straits of Gibraltar, there was a large area of land called Posidonis or Atlanta, meaning Atlantis. 3,000 stadium wide and 2,000 stadia long. The geographer Marcellus, in his collection of travelers' narratives, speaks of 7 islands in the Atlantic Ocean, one of which was the sanctuary of Poseidon. The inhabitants of one of the small islands that were saved preserved from their ancestors a memory of an extremely large kingdom called Atlantis. This ruled all the other islands in the Atlantic Ocean. Strabo, in his geography, accepts that Atlantis Island in the farthest western parts was a reality. The toponyms Atlas, Anti-Atlas, mountains of Morocco, Atitlan, Guatemala, Tlacopan, Tenochtitlan, Mitla, Etla, Mexico, etc., are all derivatives of Atla. The Aztlan, Nahuatlacatl tribes, ancestors of the Aztecs, Toltecs, and Mayas, and their gods Quetzalcoatl, flyer, meaning flyer, Mexicotl, and Tlaloc, and their traditional giants, Atlan and the Titans, known since ancient times and in the Mediterranean area as well. The traditions of the peoples of Central America and the northwest of Africa to swallow a large Atlantic island was their tradition. A large Atlantic island was sunk. One of the mythological references that converge with Plato's references are the references of the convergence about their country of origin, which was an island named Aztlan. The story of the rise of the Aztecs is one of the most remarkable stories in world history. Little is known about the early Aztecs. They did not keep a written record. According to their own myths, their history began at the beginning of the 12th century on an island called Aztlan, Heron Island, which has not yet been located. Under the protection of the guardian god Huitzilopochtli, they wandered as nomads for 2 centuries in a southerly direction, arriving in the basin of Mexico around 1300. In 1325, they established their capital city, Lake Texcoco, at the behest of the aforementioned patron and supreme god. There in Tenochtitlan, the first Temple Mayor, was built. The gods of the Aztecs were omnipresent. They were depicted combining various materials: stone and ceramics, obsidian, wood, resin, amaranth seeds, and in a variety of size and quality of statues. Some sculptures are extremely detailed and well made. Most stone statues were plastered with a type of plaster and decorated with colors of vegetable or mineral origin. According to Nahuatl legend, there were 7 tribes that once lived in Chicomostoc, the region of the 7 caves. These tribes are represented by the 7 Nahua groups: Acolhua, Calca, Mexica, Tapenaca, and Chichomilca. Different sources provide variations on the names of these 7 groups. The 7 groups of similar linguistic groups left their caves and settled as one group near Aztlan. And according to some accounts, the arrival of the 7 groups in Aztlan was preceded by the arrival of a group known as Chichimecas, who are considered to be less civilized than the 7 Nahua groups. The Mexica were the last group to travel to Aztlan and may have been slowed down by the long dry spell between 1100 and 1300 AD. Atlantis and Aztlan Islands of the Aztecs. A map of 1704 by Giovanni Francesco Gemilli Carreri. The unusual 1704 map by Carreri is the first published presentation of the legendary Aztec migration from Aztlan, the mysterious paradise somewhere in the northwestern Mexico, to Chapultepec Hill, present-day Mexico City. The word Aztlan means the land of the north, the land from which we, the Aztecs, came. It's said that eventually the people who inhabited Aztlan became known as the Aztecs, who then migrated from Aztlan to the Valley of Mexico. In some stories, Aztlan is seen as an earthly paradise for all its inhabitants. In the Codex Obin, Aztlan was a place where the Aztecs were subject to Azteca Chicomotzcoca, a tyrannical elite. To establish the Chicomotzcoca, the Aztecs left Aztlan led by their priest. In the legend, The god Huitzilopochtli told them that they could not use the name Azteca and would be known as Mexica. The migration of the Aztecs from Aztlan to Tenochtitlan is a very important part of Aztec history. It began on May 24th, 1064 AD, which was the first solar year of the Aztecs. Atlantis and Aztlan islands of the Aztecs. The Mexica departed from Aztlan. From the 16th century Codex Boturini, it was created by an unknown Aztec artist in the 16th century. Although Aztlan has never been physically located, it's described as an island. Instead of an island in the sea, it's an island in a lake. Scholars have made many attempts to locate Aztlan, hoping to find the place where the Aztecs, later known as the Mexica, came from. Some argue that the search for Atlantis and the search for Aztlan are one and the same, that these are just two different names for the same country. However, this has been disputed, and many scholars searching for Aztlan believe it to be a different country from the lost city of Atlantis. A big mystery surrounding Aztlan is just how far north the area will be located. With research extending all the way to Utah, it's possible that the Aztecs did not come entirely from Mexico, but that their culture took shape in an area now in the United States prior to the migration to the Valley of Mexico. Some claim that if it was true, Aztec descendants in the United States today may try to claim that they are not undocumented immigrants but simply returning to Aztec descendants. In any case, the mystery of the lost Atlantis remains a myth with countless unanswered questions that still exist, exciting human imagination. And this I've translated for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.